But yeah, so, question. What's been your favourite card of Opus 16? Hello, Pokersloth.
16. I'm trying to remember what's in that set.
Oh, this is a bad start.
Black Walters. Black Walters for sure.
Oh, I
Holy
love
crap, those cards have been so fun. I thought they were so bad when they got spoiled. I'm like, what an absolute joke. Because I'm an FF9 fanboy from way back, so when they sort of did that gimmick, I'm like, this is not a thing. And it sort of turned around a bit, and then obviously when Sam Prime was, running that list in standard with the white pages, I'm like, okay, I'll happily admit I was wrong on this. And then, yeah, I took it into standard at regionals, and it was great, top 8'd. And then we sort of came up with a L6 list that also went all right.
Their foils were really good. Like, they were one of the few foils I've seen that have made me go, maybe I should rethink my foil decisions here.
Oh, yeah, look, as someone who vehemently swore off blinging out decks in this TCG because I'd blinged out so much stuff from other games, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty impressive full art.
Okay, it looks like the sound is working now. I fixed it. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, Luso, Titus, Squall. Squall was good. I like Squall.
Luso's good. Luso's good in the fact that it's funny. It makes funny moments. I think we had an L6 practice event at regionals where Wayne Pearce from Sydney borrowed one of my mono fire decks, and he went turn 1 Luso, and he flipped another Luso, and then on the next turn he played a not Geomancer, I think it was a backup Cloud to find a Luso so it wouldn't happen again, and then hit a backup Cloud that he couldn't play. He went 4 turns hitting stuff where he couldn't actually play it off a Luso, and it was like those good tilts.
I had this funny thing with Luso where I played it turn 1 with no backups, then proceeded to get 5 different backups over the next few turns. It didn't win me the game, but it was just hilarious that I didn't play a single backup. But alright, let's actually start. I think people here want to hear the great news. So, oh, I'm on the wrong post. So this is the second post we're meant to be talking about. So, 2021 Road. I think it's here, the announcement 3. No, not announcement 3. Why did you make this hard on me?
On Friday.
Why did you make this hard for me? I think it's announcement 2.
Are you in for Road to Stores?
Let's talk about the re-raises first, which is why I have this lovely banner. I don't know if you could see my my background. What I have up on the stream.
Yep. I can see the amateur, I see.
Yeah, so let's talk about the re-raises. There's going to be one in Melbourne, one in New South Wales.
Correct. I believe it is the weekend of... Let's have the 20th and 21st of August. It'll be in Melbourne at Plenty of Games. We're still working out the details with the store, obviously, when it comes to entry fees and stuff like that. A few people have asked, is it going to be similar to the old Crystal Cups? I think they were about $50, $60 or something. I can't see us going over that, which is great because obviously people are working on a budget. The less an event costs, the better. But expect something probably along that line.
It will be the cube draft.
Oh, for national, that's a nationals.
That's
thing.
The nationals. So will be the format.
So re-raises are going to be standard. They'll be best of 1 Swiss with a cut to, I want to say top 8, but it could be top 16. Like, we've had a couple of discussions with some people about doing a cut to top 16, best of 3. It'll be all on so the main event will be all on one day. We're not going to follow the American example and do the top cut on the second day. I'd like to think that we can get the major event and the draw card out of the way in one hit. So there won't be any side events on the first day. Day 2 is going to be literally just side events. I'm looking at doing like a title series side event and an L6 side event just to change it up a bit, give everyone a chance to play different things. Both side events will have pretty solid price support from my end, so there will be good encouragement to participate.
Oh, that sounds great. Will the format be standard straight through, even for top cut
In
in
the
the
main
day
event,
one?
yes, yeah, it's straight, it's standard all the way. So even though it's going to be best of three with only one deck, it's still just the cleanest way to do it.
Then I think you're definitely not going to be breaking that $50 range mark. Because for Fire Cup, I believe we had a top cut that was a draft, and that was the point of the price being a little bit higher.
Yeah. Also, I think there was it Nationals?
Yes, we also did it
We
for
had the
Nationals.
draft in the middle of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, as long as we keep the limited format out of it, then obviously the cost is reduced, which is great because it just means more price support from the store side.
Yeah, and having
Um,
both sort of the same format will also be good, especially for people traveling between the two.
yeah, look, it means that if you want to turn up and just play the main event, and then you can spend, the Sunday hanging out with the guys, and you can do it like you can do whatever you want on the Sunday. You can play the side events, or you can just hang out with the guys, be a community member, and just chill out. Um, you know, if people want the option to participate for the whole weekend, it's entirely up to them. It's mainly to get everyone back together and explore those great times that we had at Crystal Cups and Nationals in the past, where everyone got together and it's good to catch up with people. So
Well,
by having the main event just on the one day, if that's all people are there for, they can get that knocked over. They can spend the rest of their weekend in Melbourne doing whatever they want and enjoying their trip.
well, if obviously I have to talk to you about this. Definitely, I want to do something for day two. Is if you're needing the judges and the help, but I definitely want to push like a new player bonanza thing. So any new players to the game who are a little bit intimidated because we have such a really like FF has got such a very high skill thing, so there's a bit of an intimidation there. But if anyone just wants to play with some new players themselves, a bit more relaxed, give them some free stuff, I'm hoping to do
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, definitely. There's room to have more introductory sort of stuff at events like this, so that it is more welcoming for people who are new, especially people like some of my locals who are looking to travel to re-raise for Melbourne or even Sydney, and they've only been playing for 6 months. They're still sort of casual. They're still getting their feelers, and we're like, you should just come. And they're like, oh, I might get crushed. And I'm like, it's not about getting crushed. It's about coming and hanging out, spending a weekend, play some games. We'll sort something out.
And
But yeah,
Ami's
we could.
and Ami should be a good incentive, I think, for new players.
Ami's an incentive for the established players. 100% Ami is the reason that most people are going to travel. I think Ami is a nice workaround for the new players because obviously they could walk away with something nice. If they choose to keep it, it's up to them. If they don't want to keep it, then they're still going to get something out of it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of new players who are doing it just because Amis are hard to get. They know it's a good card, and they're like, "Cool, I can knock this out of my missing from my collection very quickly and be able to
Oh, look.
play games more efficiently." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's definitely good. This game is very generous with that stuff. It's very generous with the cards it gives out." And I
Oh,
think I
look.
got it up on. Yep, I got it up on the screen.
Yeah,
The
being
promo
able to
version.
trade the promo to somebody for a playset of normal ones and
Yeah,
extras is obviously a good incentive. So yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, there's still wiggle room to make more announcements for the second day, like the casual day of the re-raises. It could be a case that I just bring a couple of meme decks and I sit down and gunsling against some people and throw some bits and pieces out for anyone who wants to come and beat me up. So
yeah,
stuff
and
like that.
Hoodsply is a good thing. The L6 would be a good thing to try out for the side events because L6 was very popular. I felt for the invitationals.
Yeah. So obviously, it's the thing with L6 is that we've just had a relatively big season and a lot of people are obviously wanting to get back to standard um, due to having a bit of burnout from L6. So I didn't want to push L6 too hard at the majors again. And obviously, yeah, it's the incentive is there. That's why the majors are always going to be behind set releases, so that we have a chance to see what people can do with the new cards. The L6 side event is going to be amazing to see, just to see what the new rotation does. Is Swari members going to get knocked off a bit? Well, there are more decks in L6 besides Swari, but that's where it is at the moment.
Well, we're only halfway through the spoiler season as well, so
We
we're
are,
still waiting on that.
but there is some impressive stuff there. Yes, no Tyro L6, correct. That's actually gonna.
Make a big
I'm not
difference.
actually. Yeah, I'm not actually sure how that's going to affect some decks, but I did want to put title series again. There's a lot. There was a bit of negative feedback, on the survey we did last month about the use of title series at large events. So obviously having a decent side event with titles is good. Um, we have noticed in the small amount of title series that we've run recently that the the format is so much more forgiving and balanced compared to what it was 3 years ago. So I'll happily use that. It's in some metric going forward for, especially for side events. But
Well, as Chad is now losing no Ursula, no
yeah, no
Tyro, no
Ursula, no
Kadaj.
Kadaj. There is a lot of big ticket guys who are going out very soon.
And I think
Like
that
I think by the end of the year we lose. Like obviously when when Opus 12 goes, when Resurgence of Power comes in, there are a lot more big ticket, you know, dudes. I'm pretty sure is Neo Exdeath or Braska's final Aeon. They go at the end of the year as well. No,
uh,
Braska's goes this set. So yeah,
Braskis goes this one, yeah. Because the thing for me is I've been pushing L6 just for new players that, we can't get all that older stuff. And the big pain, even with L6 for new players, is 11 is so underprinted that like it's been
yeah,
very hard to
yeah,
get it. So with 11 rotating out with the next one, L6 becomes a lot more accessible, which I think is
yeah,
very important as well, just from that teaching new players, getting new people into the game aspect as well, which is where I usually keep my focus.
yeah.
Uh, I always sort of try and focus on let's get more people in. I do. That's why I did the learn to plays and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's it's actually really funny with L6 and how some people have approached the format. Um, there's certain regions in Australia where L6 just is not a thing. It is not a format that anybody even wants to look at because they've come to Final Fantasy from games with rotating formats and they've been disheartened by the way that those formats play out. And they've come to Final Fantasy looking for a non-rotating game and they love standard, which was another reason L6 didn't really show up too much on the schedule. Um, but yeah, like obviously L6 is not meant to be designed as a replacement to standard, and it's not
No.
meant to be run, I'd say, on the same level, which is what it had during regionals. Um, but yeah, it's definitely like probably the single best alternative to standard that we have or will get.
Well, I sort of felt it was good to do it now because it was done at the start of exiting the COVID era sort of thing. There is no worlds, and that's the big thing I think we need to talk about. There's no worlds this year, I believe, correct?
To my knowledge, correct.
Yeah, so doing the L6 now didn't hurt the players as much as during a season where there was a worlds ticket possibly up for this. But
Yeah,
I think it was actually a big success. The test run of it did very well. People, at least on my end, the ones I was seeing, we were getting good responses.
yeah. The L6 has been great because obviously when they originally launched L3, um, it was quickly found that the format was very like this format is still solvable with a limited card pool, but L3 was just it was way too much shoehorned into certain things. But at the same time, L3 was sort of pushed just before COVID dropped, so it never really stood a chance. But to see L6 be refined during COVID and what they wanted to get out of that format, and then to put it up for regionals, at least for us, like we've definitely proved that it is a viable format, and I'm happy for that.
No, no, that's good. And everyone in chat's agreeing. Yeah, I don't think it should replace standard. I think standard should be the forefront. But as a side event, as a secondary one, as something maybe top cut, yeah, that might be a good idea, Kanagawa. But as something like that, just to, like I said, just to help
Yeah,
players get in. Once a player has an L6 deck and can sort of work into a standard deck and start winning events into getting like cycling that
yeah,
win into the level up.
yeah,
And
yeah. Like I tried to talk like the thing is Queensland is the outlier on L6. The people in Queensland don't support the format because, like I said, they wanted a non-rotating game. And even talking to the guys, trying to say, well, look, if you start with an L6 deck, even if sets rotate out, the cards are still useful in the most prominent format in the game. But I can understand where they're coming from. They didn't want to worry about it. But in response to Kanagawa's comment there, um, I did want to put, like 100%, I wanted to put L6 into the Nationals format. But I also had to be mindful of what happened at 2019 Nationals, 2018. I can't remember which one, the multi-format one.
yeah,
Is having too many
yeah.
formats on paper, it looks great because it's a skill test. Unfortunately, the title series that we had at the time didn't work. Like, we knew it was going to be a bit weird, but oh, hey Brendan, yeah, I know, I remember that. So yeah, Brendan, I didn't want to push it too hard this time. It might be a case that next year some of our majors or even nationals might go back to, a little bit of everything. And
Yeah, but I think if
as a player, that's something I wanted to incorporate because you want it to be a skill test. You want to see the full scope of the game on display. But obviously, the event, like the way that the software worked out, didn't really quite stack up. That's an entire another story for another time. But yeah, I definitely want to use L6 in conjunction with Standard to have a constructed sort of event.
I think if we do any sort of multi-layer or multi-format event, it should be like 2 or 3 separate events and then use the merging
Exactly.
system.
Yeah.
The way we
Definitely.
did end up doing it, but I think the negative effect was more people not expecting that to happen more than it actually happening that way.
Yeah.
I think it was the kind of
Yeah.
thing where everyone had this plan going in and then the plan unfortunately shifted. So I
Yeah.
don't think the
Exactly.
way it was done in the end was bad. Like, we had a fix for it, which was just better than most situations.
It was the best fix that we could find for the
Yeah,
situation.
but I think people were more like, just, we want to know ahead of time what's going on, is as structure wise.
Yeah. Like, I could only advise so much on that.
Yeah.
Feels like Standard light with current game design. Yeah, definitely. You can already see that in the fact that, Icefire Knights Soiree is essentially like a standard deck with less answers in the format. So obviously, depending on where they go, um, obviously L6 is always going to be either really good or really bad.
Well,
Um,
here's
in
the thing.
regards to
Sorry.
Hood's Core, sorry, just quickly with
No, no, go on.
the no interest in the limited format. Um, yeah, limited is not everybody's cup of tea, and a lot of people who play, especially games revolving around Japanese IP or anime-based TCGs, where the games aren't designed to have a limited format. They pushed limited to see what it would be like during obviously Opus 8 and Opus 9 Internet Nationals, where there was a balance of cards and a lot of cycles, especially the Moogles, the color fixed. Um, the reason why I'm pushing for Cube at Nationals is Cube is as close to a constructed format that we can get while still being limited per se. It's a lot more, I'd say, what's the term? It's a lot more
It's a lot more
easy on the
structured, less
player.
random.
Yeah, less structured. Yeah, it's more structured than what booster draft is, and you like it is still skill based. You still need to identify what the good cards are, especially in a pack of studs, compared to opening a booster pack and looking for 2 particular cards,
I
and the
think
rest is chaff.
I think the key
So
thing for the cube will be is ahead of time, a good couple of months, post the list so players at locals can practice.
yeah, so unfortunately, this is the fun part is because Nationals is so close to the set release. The best I can do is to try to get the cube list from Hobby Japan pretty much before anybody else, and have the full updated cube done, ready to go, even before the set comes out, so that once the set releases, I can put the cube list up much earlier than what we normally get it, and then that gives people pretty much 2 weeks. Maybe even if we put up on pre-release weekend, you get 3 weeks
Well,
to make your adjustment and try to make it.
since it's cube, would it be better to do it pre-rotation and just ignore that release?
Oh,
It won't affect
there's
the
definitely an
experience.
argument for it. There's definitely an argument, but I think cube is like of that nature that regardless of which cards are in the cube and which set it's up to, it's always going to be randomized to the point that you as long as you know how draft works, it doesn't matter how much practice you get. Like draft is draft, it's still going to be randomized. So even if you like, no one's going to play enough cube to know the intricate differences between Opus 16 cube, Opus 17 cube, Opus 18 cube. At the end of the day, cube is cube.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying
And
that it doesn't
yeah,
really matter if we add the next set in. If we play the previous one as well, might still be valid. But yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, Hood's Claw, for that very reason. It's about players wanting to at least be able to practice before going in, because a lot of people do like to do that.
Yeah, look, by all means, that's the thing. If you get a cube built now in your local community and just start playing cube on a semi-regular basis, between now and the end of the year, doesn't matter what the cube looks like in 6 months' time, you have that basic amount of experience in how to draft. So yeah, it's one of those things. But the only thing is, I don't want to run the risk of Opus 18 being a good constructed set, but being a terrible limited set, and then we have 3 rounds of a horrible limited format that's
Yeah.
obviously going to make a negative player
No,
experience.
100%. And I've always said this about draft and sealed. It's always felt like you cracking packs to cracking packs, not necessarily playing to play. It's why a lot of pre-releases just give 3 boosters per person instead of doing an actual ladder. It's more about you cracking packs. It's a new set, have fun. And drafts have always been just a break between standard when feeling a little bit sort of stifled. I
Yeah.
don't think it's a leading format in the game. And on that note, something about L6 before we move on from it. L6 will never be the forefront, I feel, and the way it
No.
shows that is a lot of intro decks aren't L6. So people will have. You don't need to ever fear them ever taking off L6 until you start seeing like intro decks only having L6 cards in them.
Yeah.
Because they'll always push the format where a new player can pick up the deck off the shelf and play it in a local.
Yeah. Just looking at these guys in the comments with the Cube Club. Yeah, dude, sign me up. I'm all over Cube. We play Cube at our locals probably once a month. If we manage to get exactly 8, sometimes 7, we have a cube that just lives at the store, and we cube all the time. It's great.
Well,
I,
I'm
I
sorry.
wholly, I wholly support people getting on board and organizing a cube, and it's not hard to do. Between a community, even a small one, like building a cube is not difficult.
Well, if
And
people
and
in the
as some people have done, they've made their own. Like they've obviously made their own changes. They can change it up for all I care.
well, I was gonna say if people want me to set up a cube club in the Discord, because I still haven't decided what format I want to do for my online events. If I'm getting enough noise from you guys wanting that, I will do it.
Yeah, because I've done it with the Americans. Like when they first started, like one of their programs. I think some of the guys, yeah, they've we were doing it online during COVID. I'd sit up at 2 o'clock in the morning cube drafting with Europeans and American guys because cube is cube. But
Yeah, no, like I said,
yeah,
I love limited. It's a good fun thing. It's a good for. I just like opening packs, but I can understand people not wanting it to be the professional level stuff, especially because Cube will always sort of reward that randomness a little more. And this game is such a high skill demand that I think people see that more with this game than any other.
yeah, I think that's one of the beauties about cube compared to normal booster draft is that because if theoretically 90% of the cards in the cube are highly playable. Like it's obviously going to come down to skill and your ability to draft as opposed to your ability to crack a booster and get lucky and then build around your lucky hit.
And yeah, draft over sealed is always the preference because that's the one where you
Always.
get choices and decisions, and you have to do math. You have to read signals from the packs coming around. Where sealed is what you get is what you get. So 100%.
Yeah, like I absolutely scuffed my draft at Nationals because I spent too much time in the interim between boosters trying to map out what I'd already picked. Where if I just took a little bit less time caring about individual cards and just a greater scope of what I was looking at, I would have obviously picked more backups of a certain color, and I would have had a much better, cleaner deck. But that's another thing.
Couldn't see the forest through the trees, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But no,
But yeah, definitely, yeah. So for re-raise, yeah, again to reiterate, yeah, it's going to be a standard best of one Swiss, one deck, top 8 cut, possibly top 16 on day one. A title series, we'll probably have a top cut for these events, but a title series side event and a L6 side event on the Sunday. There might be some other on-demand things. If 8 of you want to come up with a cube and you want to play cube on the Sunday all day, we can sort that out. But yeah, for nationals, nationals again will be at plenty of games. Obviously, the invite list is still technically, I wouldn't say locked in per se. We haven't got to the point where we've rolled out invites. So obviously between now and then, I've got to sort out a cutoff date to verify participation. And then obviously if people can't make it, they've obviously got to look at rolling down their invites. Based on the number of players we have qualified at the moment, which I think is roughly 55. because we want to look at running a draft format, I want to get us close to a nice round number in an increment of 8.
Yeah. I think
So
most places did the roll downs for you because I made sure of that on my end when I was.
yeah,
Yeah.
most places have already rolled down based on their results, but obviously if the people who are currently in possession of those invites
I
can't
can't
make it,
make it, yeah.
then they can feel free to roll down. Um, it could be a chance, and I haven't really finalised this, but there could be a chance where we decide that re-raise top cuts without roll downs might get Nats invites as well. There's a good chance that people who would top cut an event like re-raise already all have invites, but
And then
we'll see
obviously it
how
go.
we go.
Yeah, but then obviously that encourages more people who didn't get invites because if a lot of the higher end players have them and they're in top cut, there's a higher chance it rolls down all the way down to like 10th or 11th. And
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it might be a chance, like it might be something for me to do this week, where we look at finalizing the Nationals invite list, even though it's super far out. Like we're not even in, like we're about to hit July. This event's at the start of December.
yeah, it's
It's
still
really
plenty of
hard.
time.
Yeah, it's still plenty of time, but yeah, I'll make a decision on that. Probably, you know what, lock me in. I'll make an announcement on Friday about re-raise top cuts. Because if we decide that we're going to cut to top 16, like it might be a thing where we don't hand out more invites. If it's a cut to top 8, or even if it is 16, we might just give the top 8 with no roll downs. Um, it's just, yeah, it's one of those management things that I'm in the middle of at the moment where it's like, I've just got to try and work out what's easiest for everybody.
Or the other, I don't know, I don't think this will work, but the other option I could think of is whoever gets top X in the re-raises has a chance of getting the wild cards if there's an open gap down the road. May not necessarily get the invite, but there's an incentive to still
Yeah,
do well.
yeah. Like I said, it's one of those
Yeah,
things
it's
that
some
I got
things.
to wrap my head around. There's so much going on any given day that I'm trying to get done in this position that it's like when you've got like 5 puzzles that you've started at the same time. You
It's
only get a few puzzle pieces on the first one. You get stuck. You go start the second puzzle, and you chip away like piece by piece across 5 or 6 different things.
well, it's your first time
So,
doing this as well, so you need some time to learn the ropes.
oh look, I've had my hands in organized play in a bunch of different TCGs for the last 20 years, but actually being in a position where you have this much control,
Yeah.
it is something that is significantly beyond what I expected, but it's great. I'm enjoying it.
No, no, and I
Top
think it's in good
enjoying
hands
it
from a
up
personal
down.
perspective. Like personally, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's in good hands.
yeah, Brendan. Yeah, correct. So yeah, top cut gets invites with no pass down. So if you have an invite and you make cut, then yeah, no one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to spill out of that.
Yeah,
Because
but that
this is what happened with regionals, and this is why I'm not a huge fan of an invite system, especially for Australia. Is like if we were going to implement an invite system in a player base that is not high on numbers, um, basically it's a case of we are splitting the community for no reason. So, like for example, if we have 55 qualified players and our player base total that's active is only like 100, it's not really worth the time and effort to try and split the player group.
well, it's why I like the Australia ladder system we did a few years
The
back
RTW system, yes. So
because
RTW was, yeah,
you have X slots, you have top X. If anyone doesn't want it, it goes down. Then it's locked and it's done.
yeah, but it's a similar thing. Like you're still splintering the player group on some sort of demographic that you probably don't even need to be using. So when it comes to an invite system, if you have a player base, your invites obviously want to be handed out based on skill and results. And you want to make it, you need to make it small enough that it is exclusive. Where we're at the moment, we have people that may have got a roll down in 5th place in an 8-man tournament. And I'm like, that is not a solid metric to determine that you're eligible to play in an exclusive event. So
I can't talk. I got a roll down from third.
yeah, yeah. See, Nathan gets it. Yeah, so hard
Yeah,
to retroactively enforce that because people have traveled and grinded. So yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I tried to go over in my mind how bad of a PR move it would be to make Nat's open invite and just rescind national like or regionals results.
I
And at the end of the day, yes, it would be better to have everyone just turn up and have a great time.
I
But at the
think
same time, if I sit down and I make that decision, that hard call to go, yeah, you know what, don't worry about it. What else are people expecting me to just change at the drop of a hat in terms of, something that they've earned and I've made it, redundant. So
well, I think if you do any changes, it's probably best for 2023.
2023, I can already say right now, if I can organize 2023 to be invite free, it will be invite free. If for some reason Square Enix decides to encourage me to use an invite system, I will happily encourage Square Enix to not enforce that in Australia
I
because
don't think
we don't have the population and we don't have the justification for something of that nature.
I don't think having two open events for the Worlds one would be a bad thing, to be honest.
Oh, look, any event that's got a world's invite, I think everybody has the opportunity or deserves the opportunity to succeed. It's where the Magic the Gathering qualification system went wrong. Um,
Because
you
they're
know,
4 layers in now for
in
Worlds,
the
aren't
early
they?
days before they started giving out air flights, they would give you the option of some amount of US dollars and people and you'd have the invite, but you have to pay your own way. And it got to the point where people were taking the cash and giving the invite to someone else because they wanted to keep playing. Once they started giving airfares out, it became everyone turns up, everyone's on the same playing field. Best player on the day gets it, and that's what it
Yeah.
should be. So yeah, and definitely, especially for something like national championships, everybody, I believe, has the right to attempt to become their national champion. If you're a resident of the country, you know you should obviously have as free a chance as anybody else of trying to be the best on the day and take the belt home. Um, if it was to be an invite event at any point on the calendar, it would be something I'd think similar to RTW. RTW was working well. It wasn't a perfect system, but it's probably as close to the best one we came up with. In terms of that, it was a ladder system that didn't punish people who lived in more remote or smaller communities. They had
Exactly.
every chance to still make it. So it was the fairest system across the board, regardless of situation. Um, and the fact that it was capped at like an even 64, it meant that it was always going to be perfect in the terms of running the event.
Yeah. Also, the thing
Um,
I found is it encouraged traveling a little bit without completely burning people out.
exactly. So yeah, it encouraged people to obviously diversify which local stores they went to and encourage community, to come together and participate. So, but it's still, there were times where the burnout and the grind was real.
But I found
And
that only really happened to players who weren't doing as well and just went to more and more events to try and get that
yeah,
win
see,
in.
it was that really weird situation of like, if you got your, feasible results really early, you'd be fine. But that's similar to what regionals is. If you got your invite early, you had no obligations anymore. And
Well,
people who continually ground and ground, and they're like, if I don't get like a 4-1 for the month, you're going to drop off the wagon a bit. And people were trying to solve the mathematics from day one of like, what's the minimum requirements to make top 64? And
I found
if we,
the mathematics just came to play well, and that's kind of what you want for the invites. You want the players who
yeah,
are good.
but play well doesn't translate. Like, you can still play well and not make it. But at the same day, yeah, it is a skill based test. And it does keep everybody on the same peg for the year long. There's every chance that RTW might be the way forward, um, in order to generate an invite only event. It just depends if we want to have an invite only event.
Yeah,
Like, if the community believes that it's in their best interest, or if they think that having an invite only event would, you know it just generates that little bit of extra interest of like, yeah, I qualified for something, like something meaningful that they've earned over the course of a year, then by all means, like, we can put a poll up somewhere, we can try and crunch the numbers, and if it's worthwhile and it's warranted, I can implement it again.
yeah, and guys, I
Um,
do encourage you guys say this stuff like either on the Facebook group, the Australia one, my Discord, and if you're watching this on the YouTube and you're an Australian player and you want to have your say, put it in the comments. You've been very open to data. You've been very open to people messaging you and asking you questions. I found, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, 100%.
don't be
Yeah,
afraid to do
contact
it.
me. Yeah, if you're on the Facebook groups, if I'm there, post it on Facebook. Like, send me a private message. Like, I'm checking messages all the time. Like, it's why we had the customer survey. Like, I need feedback because if people tell me what they want and there's enough of you that tell me the same thing, we'll put it in place.
And
Like,
obviously,
make things happen.
if you have a complaint and you say it to your locals or just within your group, it doesn't get heard up there. You need to send it to the right spot.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's not going to be a case of like the people who are the loudest, or it might be a vocal minority. We know how that works. Like, yes, you can be upset about some things. I can see how I can rectify the situation, but I'm never going to make everybody happy. But I'll try to do my best. So
Yeah,
if you
and
want
that's
an
all you can
invite
ask
only
for.
system, we'll put an invite system in. But it definitely won't be the way regionals ran. Regionals is something that we already knew wasn't working when we instituted RTW. Um, it was literally just a way to get people back in this year. So,
I
like,
felt it was good even with the burnout because you got to see all these people we haven't seen for 2 years. I love
it
that.
was a good way to get the community together on a
I went
regular
I went
basis.
to practically all of them just because I wanted to like not because I was losing, but because I wanted to say hi and see everyone again and get some hugs.
Yeah, I definitely didn't go to a few because I was losing. Wink, wink. But it's fine. But yeah, yeah, we'll see how we go. Look, but this plays into the other series of events that we put up. So in announcement 3 on the Australia page, we talked about the semi-competitive events. Originally, they were named the Opus Championships and the Grand Opens. Um, I was told by Square Enix that I shouldn't use the term Grand Open based on our previous Worlds qualifiers. We didn't want to confuse anybody. Um, we found a new placeholder name. It is Level Up. It basically plays into the fact that it is the first event with the new set. The whole you've got new gear, you can level up. It's like the whole video game
Yeah.
gimmick thing. Um, we've rebranded the Opus Championships to the Magnum Opus because we discussed the use of the word championship. We we don't want these events to be overly competitive, so calling it a championship might have the reverse effect of what we're targeting at the moment. Magnum Opus, obviously, it's the pinnacle. It's like the best you can do. So obviously, having it at the end of a set's life cycle meant that it is essentially your last chance to really, showcase what that set offered the
Well, it's
game
why
before
it's
the
why I like
new
the
cards
Crystal
come
Cup
out.
names.
Yeah, it's a way to generate interest without obviously making it sound more than what it
Intimidating.
is. There's obviously people who are going to treat the Magnum Opus and the level ups a bit more seriously than what I intend them to, but that's just the nature. Like, we have to scratch the itch for competitive players by providing them with outlets to play at a greater than locals level.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
we've attached these events to the set releases to basically formulate, I'd say, mini seasons during the course of the year. So we have the Magnum Opus 2 weeks before pre release. So it's basically one last chance to play with the existing meta before the new cards drop. We have pre-release, the set drops, and then we have level up. So it's literally our first crack with the new cards. Everyone can test decks, they can try new concepts out, and because everyone wants to do their best, they want to try and break the new things. So this is a good way to give them a really early chance to do that. And the other way, the reason why we did it this way is that you know, we've always wanted Australia to make their mark on the international stage. So by putting our events theoretically as early as possible in a set cycle, there's a chance that, whatever lists do good at our events, they might go up on FF decks, they might go up on, other third party media. People then come and look at what we're doing. We can have a bit of input. We can sort of set the tone
We can be heard.
for yeah, we can be heard. Like, obviously we don't want to be forgotten out here. So it's the best way that we get to generate some sort of recognition in the community on a larger scale. But also that leads into having our major events aligned with the week after. It is the earliest possible point that we can have a major event, a grade 1 event, after a set release, and it means that the format is still fresh enough that you've had a chance to practice.
Which is why I really
So
love FF's release system. I think FF's release system is the
yeah, it's
best.
similar to what Magic used to run, where there used to be a cooldown period after pre-release and sneak peek, and then you have your set drop. And
Yeah,
now
but
everything happens on one weekend. It's like you do want to give people a chance to, obviously, well, one, get a hold of the cards, and
yeah.
two, have a chance to look at things before they get thrown under the bus at an event.
Well, the fact that technically we have that 1 week between pre-release and we don't have an official release, but they've gone cool at local levels. Play the cards as soon as you get them.
Yes.
Where other games would sacrifice having sanctioned events just to let players practice that one extra week. And the fact that FF's gone, no, we're not bothering that. We know you guys are going to do it anyway. Just play it legit, and it's a week to 2 weeks for the higher events. I think that's just a really good system.
It is. It is. And like having that cooldown period before a major event, obviously, it levels the player field enough for the people who would attend and want to really perform well at a major event. It goes, look, you've got 2 weeks. You're probably going to get all the cards you need anyway, somehow, somewhere. But we've also reduced the amount of time you've got to test, and it really puts that deck building skill and card evaluation into the spotlight. So by having our majors ASAP, it puts an onus on Australia to sort of set the tone.
And I find most groups lend within each other. At one point, I swear I was lending out to 10 different people during the last season. So we have a good group. People who would... I don't feel much people would be out a deck before that.
Yeah. But obviously, in regards to attaching these sort of events to set releases, if we have 3 set releases a year, means we get 3 majors a year. That's probably what we would normally expect to get in terms of the amount of world qualifiers that we would normally take on. If there comes a time where they reevaluate the amount of invites they want to give to Australia, and it becomes less than the amount of major events we run, obviously that's something that I'm going to have to work out, and there would be plenty of announcements before time of which particular major events would have those invites on offer. But yeah, we would still run those major events regardless of invites in that 2 weeks after set drop slot.
And that's just another reason, players get to LGSs. Let's pump our numbers. Let's pump our reputation for this. Before we do move on to LGSs, though, is there any information on any loot for the invitationals at the end of the year, or nothing's been decided or set just yet?
Okay, so I can actually officially confirm here now that each of the 3 major events, both re-raises and nationals, there will be an amount of the Zach Fanfare promo on offer. There will be an amount of the A004 promo on offer. In addition to the Amaterasu foil promo for participation, I've managed to find a sizable amount of non-foil reunion Aerith promos, which may or may not have gone out in a huge supply, but everyone will get one of those for participating as well. I know it's not the best thing, but it's another thing. There will be a very small amount of foil Aerith reunion promos, because I figured, well, re-raise is essentially a reunion. It'll be a good time to get them out. I will have an amount of Road to Worlds Chalinkas available.
Oh, that's going to get some interest.
They didn't go out in a huge number. And there will be an amount of the old Full Art Last Ball promos available.
Those also might get actually some interest. Is this over all 3 events will be getting a spread of this, or is this some will be in this one, some will be in this one, but
no. So both re-raises and nationals, all 3 majors will have all of those cards available as part of the prize pool
in some form
for those events. Some of those items may have additional copies available for a door prize or potentially a side event based on the promo.
You're getting some of the love now that they hear the goodies.
yeah. See, I knew this was going to happen. Like, obviously, I have X amount of these resources. Uh, I have enough that there might be more that could have been given out, but obviously we don't want to, crash a secondary market. We don't want to just make the card redundant. Um, there will be more of these cards coming over time. So the major events next year may or may not involve stuff like AO4s or Zax additionally, and they will come out over time. So if you can't make it to re-raise this year, if you don't qualify for nationals, fear not, there will be more chances to access these higher tier collectibles.
I think Zax and the Amis will be the ones I'm after. I think I've got most of the other stuff. But worst case scenario, players, if you got all this stuff, you get it to trade for the stuff you're missing. It's a
Look,
trading card game. It's on the back of the card.
look, I'm not going to lie. I picked a really good time to quit competitive Final Fantasy because all these nice things are coming out. But at the end of the day, if someone gets it, that still makes me happy because at least someone got something.
Oh, I've still got the the learn to play decks.
Yes.
They're like being sold for $30. I got a bunch of them for the learn to plays I ran, and I'm still giving it out to new players.
Yeah, random old sale product always does well. So,
Yeah, but I feel
but
bad
yeah,
that the free pack, things that should be given out for free to new players, is being sold on eBay, and I'm like, why?
yeah, no, you get that. But in terms of official VR support for the level ups and the Magnum Opus, it could be a case that it might just be, I don't want to disappoint people because obviously, some extra promos or a playmat. Like we've seen a million playmats, we've seen a million promos, but these events are designed to be more casual than competitive on the semi-competitive scale. The stores have been made aware that that was the intention of these events. Some stores will still try and run it as maybe a winner box. Some stores will make it a pretty flat price support. There will be some amount of extras coming from me. It could be anything from the magazine, the Gamer Mag promos with Preach and Shantoto. It could be a playmat with an artwork that we haven't seen yet. It could be some monthly promos that haven't been handed out in a few years. So I know some LGSs who obviously weren't around even before COVID have never seen the alternate art like Lagunas and Onion Knights from
Yeah,
2017, 2018. So stuff like that, a lot of people would look at and go, "Oh, we have those. We've seen a million of them." Some people who don't know these cards exist, and they will happily take them.
you know
So
the first three promos. The
yeah, the Vincent, Lightning, and Sephiroth.
I've got a
Yeah,
bunch of those hoarded that I only trade to someone I know has just entered the game.
exactly. Like we're all similar. Like people have been around since day one. I cannot count the amount of Lightning promos I've got. But yeah. So it might look like the extra price support from VR for the semi-competitive events. It might not be the most enticing, but the reason we're putting these events on is that we need to have something in place for semi-competitive play that is encouraging people to go to a variety of different stores, and it's more an onus on getting together as a group. If you want to turn up and crush the event, that's fine. Like by all means do that, but at the same time, we are trying to build the community back. We're still coming back from COVID. We will be for another 6 months. We're trying to get back to a point where every store that runs the game can run it, consistently and realistically. And we want people to be able to literally look at any store in the country and go, if I'm on holiday there, I know there's going to be a tournament there sometime this week, and turn up and play and have fun. Next year, these events might be a bit more, competitive, but that's yet to be seen. We'll see how the metrics play out over the rest of this year.
So the big thing I will ask about that, because there's some trouble we had in the invites. Is it would it be encouraged for top cut for something like this, or would it just be something more closer to locals? Where will that in between line
Oh, it's
be for
definitely at
stuff
the
like?
discretion of the stores. Like I made
Okay,
that clear. If they choose to run a top cut for a Magnum Opus or a level up, it's entirely at their discretion. Um, so I also encourage probably the use of standard, but they can use L6 if they wish to, depending on the area. Some Queensland will only play standard because that's just the way Queensland is. But there's no reason why some places in Melbourne, Sydney, Perth might not take up L6 for one of their events.
So
Um,
it's very encouraged to be what the locals on that place would like
Definitely,
it as
it's
well,
yeah,
which is also
it's
kind of
very
good.
much focused at trying to generate a positive experience for local players, whether they're new or established.
No, that'll be great to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we're really trying to push as hard as we can is to make people realize that it is about, everybody. It's about the greater, scope of the game and the health of the TCG in the country, as opposed to what they immediately need for themselves.
And this will be
So,
different from the road to stores. I correct?
so yes. So onto Road to Stores. Road to Stores is literally a very close copy paste of the old store championships we had during late 2017, all through 2018, early 2019. Um, we used to have it that it was a monthly sort of prize giveaway. There was a play mat, there was some dice, some ice tokens, stuff like that. Eventually, it ended up being like a 2 month or bi-monthly season, and you would have your own um, points ladder in your store, and prizes would be given away based on your final results over the course of 2 months. What we found that was a lot of players who are obviously very casual or new to the game
Got locked out. Yeah.
got locked out of prize support due to the fact that they were obviously not racking up wins at a local level. And we found that people were treating locals too seriously. Locals are meant to be your literal like once, twice a week, come into the store, hang out with you guys, play some Final Fantasy. There will be other times and days where you can go hard and play tier one meta decks. And by all means, if you want to play tier one meta decks at locals, go for it. My local group, we all play tier one local meta like tier one decks, but we still have fun doing it because we're all on the same page. And whenever a new guy comes in, we sort of either tone it down a bit or we get him up to speed pretty quickly.
We've done a sort of wheel of fortune thing where if all of us have like tier one, like 3 or 4 tier one decks, we randomize which of those four we're playing that day
Yeah, 100%.
to sort
Like
of
we
make it
got
a little bit more fun and enjoyable, and not just we're all
yeah.
trying to out chess each other.
Yeah, well, like my locals, obviously when they started pushing best of two, or sorry, best of three two deck, we took that on board and we're like, yeah, we want to test out that this is a thing. We got to the point where we were having so much fun that we would bring three, sometimes four decks, and we would literally just pull a deck out of a box every game. What do I do if everyone calls me a metagamer for every deck I throw together? Dude, you made mannequins good again. Like, I don't know what we can call you for doing that, but well played for that. But yeah, like for someone who's played the game at a level that we've played it at, or for a time that we've played it at, it's almost impossible for us to build a casual deck. So,
I
make it as casual as you can, Rob, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've had times where I'm trying to build a casual deck, but as soon as I like step into the shop, I just like I'm just gonna come last. So why don't I just pay $10, get one booster, and then play something at like it's that point of thing where you just it
Yeah,
just you're not gonna have fun.
yeah, it's like obviously you could spend your money going to the movies, you could spend your money going to the pub, you can spend your money going to the local game store, and if you're not getting what you want out of your investment, then you'll stop investing. Which is why obviously we wanted a flatter price support and a more casual atmosphere
Well,
at
I meant
local
more.
sort of pubs.
I meant more. Just let me go last. I'll take the prize for coming last, but can I play something I will enjoy, and then I'm just not part of the tournament? Like I'd rather do that with a casual deck than
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. But yeah, but going back to the road to stores is obviously we want to make in-store play at a local level as friendly and welcoming as possible to especially new players. So it's not a case of we want you to dumb it down and we want you guys to like stop playing the best decks. We just want people to,
We'll find that middle ground.
understand that some people, you need to give them a little bit in order to keep them around. Because if you don't treat your new guys, you know, with a bit of respect, really, it's about, you're not going to just smash this guy with, all the same stuff every week. You're at least going to give him a few tips, or you might give him a few cards try and get him up to like where you guys are. Like we're all in it together, and any new player is better than no new player. So
Welcoming but rewarding to the skill.
exactly. So what we've done is we've eliminated the points ladder. By taking the points ladder out of the store play, it means there is no incentive, literally zero incentive, to grind your locals in a competitive manner. What happens is then we had to come up with a way that we could still reward players for turning up and playing cards. Because if you used to turn up 8 weeks in 2 months and you would, play well, 2 1s, the occasional 3-0, you'd maybe come top 5 in your store. You might get a playmat, you might get a promo, you might get some other stuff. What we want to do is encourage people to turn up and participate for the sake of participating, the sake of playing the game. So it's going to be a case that I'm looking at pushing the stores to use like a lottery system. So what will happen is every event that you go to in an LGS essentially gets you a lotto ticket. And at the end of your 8 months, 2 months, your end of 8 weeks or however many weeks it is, you'll run your raffle, and the more events you went to at the store, the more tickets you get, the more chance you get of getting the prizes. Because at the end of the day, it's not about getting your 17th playmat because you crush locals.
So it's
about it's about participating. You still get something at the end of the day for it. It might not be something exciting, but it's just those you get a reward for for turning up and being part of the community. You're not getting a reward for dominating. There are other times and places you get rewards for dominating.
So similar to the bi-weekly, but instead of having the playmat for first, we just have more of the stuff as part of the ticket system, like the random playmat and the random promos.
Yeah, well, it's really hard because with the ticket system, like, I can't see the names of people's profiles when I go to look at stats and stuff. So it's going to be a bit of an onus on stores to remember in some way or record in some way which which players turned up how many times. So it might be that there's a tiny bit of paperwork for them, but if stores really care about the game and they really want to run the game and succeed with it, it's a tiny amount of paperwork, and it should be pretty easy for them to track. Plus, they also have access to all of their results, and they can just go back through and check it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to try to remove the competitive streak, or like the crushing feeling of not getting something out of turning up. In response to Hood's call there, plans, ideas to try and draw new players in, incentives to promote the game. Yeah, so some of the, I wouldn't say incentives just yet. Obviously, marketing has been an issue at a LGS level since the game started. So I know a lot of people, the running meme is Final Fantasy has a trading card game, ? Square Enix have done a really good job of promoting Final Fantasy TCG at a international sort of level, or like, on a macro scale. So like if you look on Facebook, you look on Twitter, you'll find Final Fantasy TCG if you look obviously hard enough. It's hard for me, like I can't exactly badmouth everybody at the moment, but I understand where they're coming from, because they have put a lot of resources into advertising. But the only problem is that, especially out here, the advertising didn't trickle down to where it probably needed to be. So where the advertising needs to be is in front of the customer. It needs to be, in the store. It needs to be in the window, on the wall. It needs to be, on an event page if someone puts an event up for their store.
And I think at some level it needs to be both sides: the store, the TO yourself, and the players. It needs to be all three working together to get players in.
Yeah. The onus is definitely on some more than others. So it shouldn't be relied upon the players to promote the game. But the thing is, Square Enix have definitely done a good job with promoting Final Fantasy TCG at the level that they've advertised where they've targeted. The only problem is it wasn't targeted where we as a player group, especially in Australia, would want it. And that is in front of me at the counter at a local game store. So advertising is coming, marketing is coming, it's being finalized literally as we speak. Your stores will have advertising materials to use in their store and to use on social media, on their website, stuff like that. It wasn't for core group of 4 players. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, yeah, the core groups, as you said, was core. The players have obviously kept this game alive through thick and thin, through whatever level of mistreatment do you think the game has suffered. Yeah, it is down to us core players having kept it alive. And it might still be the case that that is the way it is going forward for the next 6 months, 12 months. But it is getting exponentially better a lot sooner than people have the understanding of, because obviously not everyone's privy to the back information of what's happening behind the scenes. One of the pet peeves that used to be in play was how promo cards were distributed in Australia. Not everybody might know, but it was a case that, we would send promo cards when your store ordered something and the order went out. And what happened was, if your store wasn't able to make an order on a regular basis, promo cards wouldn't turn up on a regular basis.
Yeah,
And
a
it
bunch
was a
of the
very big
places.
roadblock.
We just do the IOU system, which gets a little messy sometimes, but
Well,
yeah.
that's the thing. An IO system shouldn't have been in place. But again, this is an opportunity where I can happily say now, where a lot of people gave certain people a lot of flack, but the people at the end of that anger did not deserve it. So it is what it was, and we can't really wait. We can always look back at the last 5 years and be like, yeah, that was a bit how you're going. But what I've managed to already sort out is that promotional cards, your monthly promos, will now go out to your stores every month, regardless if your store is ordering stuff, regardless of if there's an order that's due to come in. It won't be like sent with all that stuff. It would be sent by itself as a packet with your promos in it, so that, hopefully, as long as we get our stuff, as long as we get the promos in hand at VR in time to get them out at the start of a month, the stores will have them at the start of the month, every month from here on out until the end of time, if this system works. But that's a new system, because even my store, my local store, Good Games Wollongong, I'd say we're more one of the bigger fish in terms of the amount of product we order for Final Fantasy. Every set, we go through a ridiculous amount of stock. But even we found it that we would get our promos up to a month late. And it was just not a done thing. We would always say, look, it's hard to, it's really hard to look at this game, take it seriously, when we can't even get the promos on time. It was the case for players and stores. But the system now going forth as of, I believe, July, and it should include probably the June promos as well, that these promos will go out on time, individual, like separately, unattached from other requirements. So monthly promos, the whole distribution is fixed.
So they're on their own system now.
They're on their own system now. If for some reason your store is late in getting their monthly promos, it might be something on the back end that is out of our control. But as long as we are in control, your promos at your stores will turn up every month without fail going forward.
And I assume there's no information on what the Road to Locals will have available? That stuff you're trying to organise?
Yeah, so with the... I have to go back to the Road to Local stuff. So with the actual stuff, it might be a case that in the... sooner rather than later, or basically, sooner, like up until the end of this year anyway, it might be a case that stores might get a playmat or two. They might get a couple of packs of sleeves. They might get some more, old promos that, obviously haven't been handed out, that are rarer now. So yeah, the price support for the Road to Stores is going to be of the level or maybe slightly above what it used to be. I want it to be bigger and better, because I obviously want people to be encouraged to come in and get duly rewarded for their attendance. But as it stands, in my capacity right now, the best I can do right now is as good, if not slightly better than what it used to be.
It was pretty good as it was. Like, I'll be honest,
It was okay,
the two
but
playmats
yeah,
and a
it could
pack
have
of
been
hard to
better.
get promos was pretty amazing, especially when we got the Zidanes for 1 month or
Yeah.
one fortnight, by
So
month, sorry.
obviously going into next year, based on how the road to stores sort of thing plays out, if people do start turning up at their local stores more often, and we do see that increased turnout at a grassroots level, it could be that road to stores next year might be improved in some way. It could be that there might be more support in terms of material goods. It might be that material goods are handed out um, on a monthly basis instead of bi-monthly. Like, it depends on what's available and what strings I can pull. Like, I can't just give everybody everything every time, but I can be very realistic. Um, it could be a case that road to stores next year, as we said earlier, might morph back into something more akin to road to worlds, if that ends up being a thing, so that we still encourage that more casual level play, and you still get rewards for showing up, because obviously with road to worlds we were handing out prize support based on obviously a metric of points that you earn. And if we make it enough that you need to grind for it a little bit, but you don't need to destroy your local store for 2 months in the process, it might be that sweet middle ground. So it remains to be seen, but that's pretty much where we're aiming at, is to get everything as casual as we can in the short term to rebuild. And then in 6 months' time, when we hit the back end of the year, I'll get more information about what next year's expectations are, both from the community, from Square Enix, from what other people determine what needs to be run. And then I can start preparing for next year's stuff, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to see, like, in the chat, like, we're all trying to help each other's local stores no matter where we are, and that's the kind of thing I really like about this game. Always appreciate that, guys, like, just seeing that love.
I just saw that, Brendan. Yes.
Yeah,
So
stuff like that.
with Bendigo, it's really hard, because obviously with these level up and magnum opus events, right? We needed to restrict the amount of events of that nature in a geographical area, because we wanted to avoid the burnout that regionals caused to some people. By having an event of that nature literally twice every week for 6 months was just not a thing. So that's why we restricted the amount of events in a set cycle, and we're trying to spread them out amongst as many stores as possible. At the moment, Bendigo being a bit of an outlier in terms of geography and sometimes event, like your weekly average player number, you're a bit further down the line, but it doesn't mean that I've forgotten Bendigo. There are a few stores in Melbourne, because there's so many stores in Melbourne, that I couldn't even fit every store into that program for the next 6 months. And it might be a case that next year, depending on how many stores are in Melbourne, one might miss out. For example, Grand J at Essendon has missed out um, on level ups and magnum opus this year. But I've already talked to Jason. He's got some other stuff, bigger, better events for other games that he's got in the works at the moment. Based on what happens with that, I'm going to try and find something for him in the off season, because realistically, there's a time between re-raise Melbourne and re-raise Sydney through pretty much all of September where there is nothing. It's like that dip in the lull between, like, Rebellion's Call season and Resurgence of Power season. So it might be a case that Bendigo and Grand J can try and get like a bit of a prop up event, and it might be something. It might just be like a grassroots learn to play campaign, where it's like we select a couple of stores who might have missed out. We'll try and funnel a bunch of interest into those stores, and it's not to just try and prop those stores up. It's obviously so that everyone gets a fair go. And if it is a learn to play, then obviously people have an expectation of what that event is. But yeah, if you go through the calendar that I posted up, and there will be an actual image of a calendar that I've worked on, should be up next week.
Oh, in
But
that
if you go
case,
through
I
it,
will
yeah,
wait for your one instead of making my one.
yeah, definitely. But if you go through the dates that have run, obviously there are some stores that only get one event in the next 6 months at that level. There are some stores that get a full four. So like the stores in Perth, there's only like two main stores that play at Good Games Morley, Good Games Cannington, and it's more of a case of like, well, they're my only options, so they're just going to get those events every time. So like in Canberra, Aki Canberra is like the up and coming store for Final Fantasy. They're going to get one event like every time one of those events pops up, and if a second store in Canberra takes it on, which I'm hoping I'll have another one soon for all those Canberra players out there, they'll get the alternate every time. But for like Melbourne, yeah, it's a very flooded market, but I can't put on more than two events per weekend because obviously then, if I've got one instance where there's two events on the same day, which is something I wanted to avoid at all costs, but based on other outlying factors that are out of my control, it had to happen. But the geography of it is that the player base in Melbourne would split for those two anyway, and no one's going to miss out.
And we're still in a bit of test mode anyway. I think at this point we just have to accept 2022 is the test stuff out, and 2023 will be the first.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like between now and December is we're in guinea pig mode per se, and then obviously January 1st next year. Like obviously, I want things to be the best they can be, but at January 1, I assume we're going to be off to the races. As much stuff that can be locked in will be locked in, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for all the good things from that, and it's sounding amazing, to be honest, at least from my end.
Yeah, would people be open to run an online Octagon or even webcam event run by Guff or myself? So Brendan, with the online stuff, because I know you ran one during COVID, even I participated in it. Stuff like online events with Octagon, webcam, stuff like that. By all means, organize it, get it happening. Use the Facebook pages, use Discords, whatever you need to do. Chuck it up, put an actual event page for it in Facebook if you want to. There is a chance that I might be able to provide something for it. Obviously, I'm not sure exactly what Tim was able to hook you up with last time during COVID, but if there's enough interest with it, obviously, because being on Octagon, it's hard for it to be like, officially recognized by someone like Square Enix or even VR, akin to what like the Zanakin Opens that the Americans ran. It's more of like what they were able to rustle up as opposed to like being provided for officially.
I would also appreciate a bit of help on that because I would like to start doing the Lantern series soon.
If anybody comes up with something, if they want to do something on their own and find a way to fill gaps in the calendar, by all means, get that started, put something in the works, hit me up about it. I'll see what I can do. Like Jason Black, bit of a shout out. He runs Gungnir Games at Blacktown in Sydney. He wants to run a winner box every month, which I know some stores used to do on a regular basis. It came to the point where he's like, I want to do it on this particular day every month. There was a couple of clashes, like one of his days that he was planning to do clashes with Sydney Re-Rays, and I'm like, yeah, probably no one's going to go out there if they're at Re-Rays. So obviously he's flexible. He said, that's right, we just won't run that one that month, but his level up event happens to be on the same day as a planned winner box, so he's turning his level up event into a winner box, but he's still trying to flatten the curve a bit in terms of the price support, which is what I recommended. So it's stuff like that. And obviously, yeah, if anybody finds a way to just make the game a bit better all around, yeah, I'm all over that. I'll provide any prizes I can rustle up. I'll try and help out. The one thing I've got to be mindful of now, especially in the position that I hold, is that if there comes a time where there's too much of that excess going on outside of what I officially put up, there's a chance that some stores do get squashed out. So, imagine if, say, 5 stores in Melbourne out of the, I believe, 13 now, decide that they want to, do winner boxes or other mid-scale events on a regular basis. If they tend to use days that other stores run their locals, it's going to kill off the local scenes at a bunch of stores. It's a really, really good way to obviously eliminate your competition at a business level. And, I can't really advocate for that, but you know, I do still want to see as many stores as possible and as many scenes as possible survive. So I was
Yeah,
ready to cut off the gong. Yeah,
a
yeah.
healthy balance. A healthy balance.
Yeah, definitely a healthy balance. So like it might be that if one store starts up a series like that, especially if it's like in paper in a store, if everybody jumps on the bandwagon, it's just going to go back to an, you know, a very over-cluttered calendar in certain areas, and everyone's going to step on everyone's toes, and we're back at square one. So
Yeah. So
I'm not
I'll,
saying that people should get in as quick as possible to establish their, you know, their dominance in that regard, but you know, we've got to be realistic about it. Like the players have to be realistic about it. They really don't want to see all of their options drop off because all their store options are fighting against each other.
well,
The
yeah.
players need
There's
to tell
too
their
many
stores,
options.
yeah, the players need to tell their stores, hey, cut it out. Maybe let's like, you know, get the stores to talk to each other. As hard as that can be at times, you know, stores need to sometimes settle down and go, okay, what's best for them as a business, which days to pick, and obviously get the players to move around as much as possible. So
So what I'm going to do now, because it feels like we're sort of moving into it, I'm going to do sort of my outro spiel and close the
yep,
recording for YouTube, and then we can go to questions from chat for as long
excellent.
as you feel comfortable. Obviously,
Yeah, 100%.
we've
I'm
been
here
yeah.
all night.
So yeah, if you guys are new here, if this is your first time on the channel, follow is always appreciated. I'm hoping to do more stuff like this. I'm hoping to do some podcast stuff with some locals and not so much locals. I'm hoping to do my online events, the Lantern series, and I just open product and review product a few times. So if you're watching the YouTube, a follow and a comment is also appreciated. If you dislike, dislike. If you like. And hopefully we get more FF content out to people. Anything you want to say as a goodbye?
I don't really just stick around. We'll be here for a while. This game is not dead, no matter what people say. It will not die.
No, no, it's way too efficient to die.
Look, we're further than what Chapters got. Chapters didn't die. Chapters was ceased because they wanted to launch Opus. So we're as far and beyond what that ever meant to be. So if we're still going strong, then yeah. And the community won't let it die. You guys are too good. You just love it too much. So all I can say is thanks for sticking it out. Thanks for all the support you guys have shown me. And yeah, we've managed in 1 month what I thought would have taken a year. So obviously, if I've got a year spare, we'll see how far we can go with it.
Yep, thank you guys. Love you all.